the way I think of it, Jonathan, the way I thought of it in the early 2000s when I was hit with just a little bit of a recession and some issues in my business prior to that was how do I surround myself with customers that are busier or as busy in tough times as in good times, right? And I looked at McDonald's, and I looked at Walmart, and I looked at all the different retail businesses that I believed, right, would be busy in tough times. I did a little bit of history on these businesses as well to prove that they were, and they became my targets in business. And then I said, I'm not going to do new construction for them. I want to do maintenance for them. I want to be the leader in maintenance to serve them when in the dirtier businesses, right? New construction's kind of sexy for us. So again, so we went after maintenance instead of what we thought was a sexier business. And it worked out really well in 2008, 9, 10, where we grew more than ever. But so I think there's probably some combinations, right, Jonathan, where you're doing it right now, and I love it, where you're guiding your partners that you're consulting to, making them more recession proof. So you're doing business. And if they don't, Jonathan, you almost got to say, boy, you know what? If these couple of companies don't get their stuff together, they're not going to be good customers, and they're not going to be there for me in the recession. If you can replace them with somebody else, you're probably more, better off yourself, right?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with everything you're saying. And then I'm looking in the book right now on page 171. I give a table of the industries that grew or held steady in the recession, in the Great Recession, and the ones that got pummeled. So, like, for example, if you're in construction and you're building jewelry stores, or you're doing work for four-year universities or casinos, then you got to start to think about repositioning. Sure. Because those industries do not do well in recessions. Neither do hotels and motels. So if you're building hotels and that's 100% of your book, then you need to be thinking through what that looks like for you if those projects get shuttered in a recession, if they lose their financing. On the other hand, things like information, so building data warehouses, things like guns and ammo, things like grocery stores or community colleges, those all bump up in a recession. Right. I like veterinary services. And the reason I really like that is because you're probably thinking to yourself right now, like, what is he talking about? People still take care of their pets in a recession. Sure. And so if you're building those little veterinary clinics that we're seeing pop up all over the place, you're probably in a good spot because those are cash businesses. They're not even insurance. Yeah. And people, if your dog gets sick, you're still going to take them to the emergency vet. So I think people just need to think through and do a little bit of homework. Sure. Right now, the tortilla business is booming. Again, I know that's a weird one. But as we think through, tortillas are popular. They're growing in popularity. In a recession, I think people eat more or even more burritos. So if you're doing work with tortilla manufacturers, then you've got to feel good about what that is. But less investment in the seafood business and a little more in the tortillas. I like that. Exactly. If you're doing oysters and lobster shucking, you got to be really thinking through what is that going to look like.
Well, this is something actually on one of the other podcasts with Paul Darley. He talks about like innovation doesn't have to be radical. You remember when he was talking about how he used to have the glass with the water, and then it
turn into a box,
and it's the small things, and that's kind of what you're saying as well. Like, if you just look at what industry you're involved in, you might want to figure out how to innovate or pivot, right? Just pivot just a little bit so you can get through this recession opportunity. So
and I mean not just through a rocket. Like
that's right. Now get through it, rocket.
Because if you can rock the recession, as Jonathan's saying, you're going to come out of it so much stronger. And Jonathan, I know you think this way because in Traction we think this way a lot, and EOS, and I know you're one of the leading people in this world of EOS. But we today look at enterprise value appreciation on an annual basis, and we say profits are great, and all this innovation is great, and growth is great, and the amount of trucks we have out there, hey, that's cool, right? Not so much anymore to me, but It used to be, So now it's like, what only thing that really matters is, are we growing are we appreciating our enterprise value, right? And when you as that young private equities guy that you were, right? When you're looking at businesses, what are you looking at? You're looking at what's the value of the business, and the value there's multipliers that apply to recession proof, of course, and getting through the toughest time. If the business had a history of ups and downs that correlated with the recession, big problems. Now, some might look at that as an opportunity, but many don't want to fix that problem. They'd rather have a business that got through the recession super strong. So the value add to that business in an outside party looking at a business, or the value add to the equity holders in the business, even if it never sells, is enormous, right? And I think that's what we got to think about, right? Not just getting through it, but rocking it. I love it, right?